In this video, we're going to talk about the three main things that you really need to keep in mind when you're talking to a motivated seller that most investors don't even know or they totally forget about. Coming up. What's up, everybody? It's Jamel Gibbs. Welcome to another video. Listen, in your conversations with motivated sellers, you need to be asking these three questions, and they're not what your typical investor or your typical real estate investor training is going to teach you. And these are things that I've learned over the years, like I've said, and I've done videos on these topics in the past. You know, for example, the first tip that I'm going to talk about was a video that I did maybe back in 2015 and didn't get a lot of views because my channel was a relatively small channel and I wasn't as consistent with my videos back then as I am today. But I needed to reiterate this because I think that this will help a lot of investors be able to create more opportunities for themselves in their real estate investing business. So the first thing I want to talk about today is this. When you're talking to a motivated seller, I always want you to ask the following question. What are you doing with the money after we close the deal? And the reason for that is you're looking for private money and gap money opportunities, right? So these are questions that the average investor, they're not asking sellers and they're not creating these opportunities. See, when a motivated seller sells their property, if they're not doing anything with the money, chances are you can turn them into a private money lender. So let's just say you had a deal and rather than going the hard money route, you had an opportunity where you can offer this seller a percentage on their money as a return on their investment if they funded the deal with the money that they just made from the property that you just purchased from them. You can create a private money lender, which can be short-term or long-term capital for you. Let's just say that the amount is not that much, right? They didn't get a lot of money. Let's say it was $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in profits. In a case like that, they can become a gap lender for you. And for those of you who don't know what a gap lender is, it's basically the type of lender that can fill a void for you. So, for example, when you come across a deal and let's just say you're getting hard money on a deal because you want to rehab a house, chances are you're going to need to have points and closing costs up front when you're dealing with hard money. Let's just say you purchase a $100,000 house. On a $100,000 house, most hard money lenders are going to charge you, let's say, 2 to 3 points, which is $2,000 to $3,000 up front plus closing costs. So you might be out of pocket on a $100,000 house right around $4,000, let's just say, right? Let's say you don't have the $4,000. If you were able to build a rapport and communicate with a motivated seller that you purchased the property from who have the extra capital now, you can create that gap lending opportunity with them. They can give you the $4,000 and make a return on their investment. So always ask the question, what are you doing with the money after we close the deal? Because that can lead itself into private money and gap lending opportunities for you as a real estate investor and help you grow your business from where you are right now to catapult your business once you have access to the money. So question number 2 is, will you take your payments over time? This is another important question that you need to ask motivated sellers, especially right now. And there's so many seller finance opportunities out here, it's not even funny. And when you're one track minded or you're a one trick pony type of investor, you're literally leaving money on the table. You have to ask the question, will you take your payments over time? Because that will allow you to pay more than the average investor in your local area while still getting a great deal because you don't have to come out of your pockets with these types of deals. The seller will finance the entire deal for you. So if the seller is willing to take their payments over time, basically you're creating more opportunities for yourself in the real estate business. Recently, I purchased a property where the seller was asking for $100,000 on the property. I posted the video up. I'm only speaking about videos on this channel that I've actually shown you. I do a lot of deals. But using this one as an example, I paid market value for the house. It didn't matter to me primarily because I didn't have to come out of my pocket. So my return on my investment is infinite at that point. I can literally pay market value or even more than market value if a seller is willing to hold the financing and I could get 100% financing from the seller in the first place. So the only way for me to get that 100% seller financing is to ask the seller, will you take your payments in the form of monthly payments over time? And if they say yes to it, I can then create an opportunity that's win-win for them and win-win for me as well. So we talked about why it's important to ask the seller, what are you doing with the money? Because you can create gap in private money lending situations. And then we also talked about why it's important to ask the seller if they would take their payments over time. Now, the third key point that you want to keep in mind, the third question that you always need to ask a seller is, do you have more than one property for sale? I'm going to give you an example. Most investors are, again, one-track minded. Most wholesalers are one-track minded. They want to go in, they want to make a quick buck and move on to the next one. Well, you can make your job a lot easier by asking if the seller has multiple properties for sale. Let me give you an example. Recently, I did a video out in Thomasville, North Carolina, where I showed you 2 properties that I purchased from a motivated seller. Now, these 2 houses were going to yield me a nice profit. At the end of the day, I was going to make a nice return. And if you remember, I'll actually pop that video up at the top so you can see which video I'm talking about, where I showed you how we make $10,000 an hour in real estate. But in addition to those 2 particular properties, we were in conversation with the motivated seller, and we straight up asked him, do you have any other properties for sale? And he started talking about these other houses that he was having issues with, right? So we turned around and we offered him exactly what he was asking for on those properties. Again, lending itself back to point number 2, where you take your payments over time. And we ended up turning those 2 properties into seller finance deals. So in essence, I really bought 4 properties from the one seller, and I wholesaled 2 of them, and I was able to keep the other 2 through seller financing and create a monthly passive income for myself, all because I asked the seller one specific question: if they had more than one property for sale. So that's really what I wanted to share with you guys today. Keep these 3 things in mind. What are you doing with the money, Mr. Seller? And that will allow you to create gap in private funding. Will you take your payments over time, Mr. Seller? That will allow you to create creative finance opportunities. And do you have more than one property for sale, Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller? And that will allow you to purchase more properties from one seller and really minimize your workload, but maximize your profit potential. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Be sure to like it, subscribe to this channel, click the notification bell, share this video with your friends who are investors and other people looking to get started in real estate as well. And I'll talk to y'all in the next one. Peace.